vigilante group out of Long Island known as the Predator Poachers find a predator in Wading River trying to sext a 13-year-old girl. This is going to be a big issue, whether or not this person has any sort of rights to defend himself, and what's going to happen is this gentleman going to be thrown in jail? Gentleman's maybe not the word to use here, but sexting operation where a bunch of vigilantes go out, created a fake kick account, had suspicion of this one teacher trying to sext a student, gain illicit images and pictures of this young lady, and essentially gets caught. We have a lot of issues going on here with this, whether or not this teacher is protected by the teachers union. Did he have tenure? Did he not have tenure? Is going to determine how his employment moves forward. Is this person going to face criminal charges? And a lot of situations here that are very ugly. Luckily, in this situation, the vigilante group did stop this from, moving forwards and going beyond what had already happened, but a lot of things to uncover here. Josh, you worked with a lot of school boards. You have a lot of experience with this. Why don't you speak on, what the rubber room, and as people know it, actually means, and what's going to happen here?
Right. So when a teacher is facing discipline, and this is significant, severe discipline, right? They're typically covered by a collective bargaining agreement, and that collective bargaining agreement is going to protect most teachers in most events. Now, whether it protects in this type of criminal activity is questionable, but assuming that it does, this teacher is protected by the collective bargaining agreement, and they're going to end up on administrative leave, and likely paid administrative leave, until this is actually proven. Part of this, we've got this vigilante group, and the evidence that they've got, and I know, Rich, you're going to talk a little bit about the constitutional law piece of this and the evidential piece of this, but that could have made it more difficult, right, for the school to get them out, because it's going to maybe extend, right, the time frame in which this guy's going to go to trial, and whatever's going to need to happen in order to get him fully convicted of these really heinous, acts. And but during that time, it's very, very possible that he's going to be placed on administrative leave. He'll get full pay and benefits while this is happening. If he'll have a pension. My experience was a bunch of years ago, and it was in New Jersey. But when a teacher is accused of doing something, and they're convicted for it. Now, in my experience, it was financial crimes, so maybe there's a difference here, and morally, I think we all could agree that there probably should be. But when a teacher's convicted of financial crimes, in a lot of instances, their pension, let's say, you started these criminal acts 5 years ago, but you've been working for the district 15 years prior to that. Well, you've got total 20 years in the district. Well, you're going to get 15 years of pension, and the pension is going to cut off on the day of which that first event triggered the criminal act, and you're not going to lose your pension completely. Now, I think with this, I think we can all agree he should lose his pension, and maybe the laws in New York provide for that.
See, now listen, I'm a product of the public schools of Long Island. I had a great experience in public school in Long Island, but we all heard about the rubber room.
Yeah.
Something happens, the teacher pretty much gets put on leave, he's still getting paid, he can't get fired, every parent is up in arms, and in this situation, Rich, and you're gonna opine on this, is whether or not this evidence could actually be used, and is evidence the fruit of the poisonous tree in a situation like this?
So the allegation against this gentleman, this teacher, is that allegedly there was a kick account that he was messaging set up by these vigilantes that were trying to trap him. And essentially they were able to gather enough information to confront him. And here's where this whole story spins out. But now look at the criminal side of it, is the evidence from the kick account, is the evidence from whatever he was saying in those messages admissible in court? And you have to look, because if this is prosecuted by the people against him in the state of New York, the evidence has to come in, and he has rights, and he has rights that need to be defended. And they have to look at whether was the government enticing this vigilante group and saying, this is how we need you to go and do this to capture these type of people. Because if there's any evidence of that, then it's not from a private citizen, because generally admissible evidence comes from a private citizen unless it was directed by a state organization or agency to gather such. So that would be the strongest, in my opinion, strongest defense argument for him, is that these people were working as vigilantes, and they were going to be working with the police and the state. So therefore, it is a state evidence, and it didn't come in legally and should be kicked out, because without that evidence, they're not going to be able to meet their burden in the state, frankly. Now, his other argument could be that he had a reasonable expectation of privacy. However, I think that gets destroyed because he freely, willingly, and voluntarily messaged the vigilantes through the Kick app. They didn't message him saying, "Hey, yo, you up?" ?
Yeah.
He reached out to them and engaged in whatever the circumstances were. So he was actually inviting the conversation. He was inviting a third party to speak with him, thinking that he probably is talking to a minor. And that's going to probably destroy his reasonable expectation argument. But I think at the end of the day, the evidence, in my opinion, probably likely does come in against him, because I haven't seen anything that I've read that would suggest that the police or any kind of state organization was actually behind these vigilantes. I think going forward, I think it's going to be a very tight line of whether this will come in future cases, but I think I see it coming in here.
Yeah, I mean, and Josh, like you said, you've dealt with a lot of, school board administrators and things of this nature, especially here in New Jersey. But I mean, this is a vigilante group, right? I mean, they're going out, unauthorized by state government agencies. They're trying to catch bad actors. In my opinion, they did a great job here. Whether they overstepped or not, that's not for me to determine. But, they saved a young girl from potentially dealing with a predator. And, the trust is in the teachers, right? The trust is in the school district to send your minor children to a school where they're there to learn. Right, they're not there to get abused, especially sexually harassed. So when you have a teacher who's an adult, right, texting a minor, asking for photos of them, I mean that's a line that should never be crossed. And as a parent myself, this is something that I fear, having to deal with, sending my kids off to public school. So I hope in this situation that the evidence comes in. This teacher is found, has some sort of criminal and civil liability. I hope to God he doesn't get his pension, because I don't think he deserves his pension in this situation. I would fight against it. And this guy serves time in jail for committing a criminal act,
Yeah, hope he serves significant time.
Yeah.
And the predator poachers of Long Island, I mean, good job to you.
I want to know if they wear a T-shirt.
And I think
T-shirt.
So what
I
about
think they
if
just
you're-
have to. I think just with the vigilante groups, talk about it for a minute. I mean, I think the way in which they went about it, at least as far as we know, seems to be a really good and solid and I don't want to say safe, but I'm going to call it non-violent way to go about it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think where these vigilante groups cross the line is when they become in a more violent, and they say, "Oh, well, we got this guy. Let's go get him."
Well, I have my Batman costume at
Right,
home.
exactly.
I put that on and,
Right.
and go through Gotham myself and try to tackle.
Exactly. So if you're part of a
thieves.
vigilante group out there, let's just say,
Yeah.
keep it nonviolent. And
Yeah.
when you find something like this and you get that
Report it.
evidence, report it right away. Don't take that next step
Yeah.
right into your own hands.
Again, vigilante groups. Have you ever seen any of this in Staten Island, where you're from?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Don't. Isn't there movies about vigilante groups?
Yeah, we did. I usually dress up like Batman, usually dress up like Robin, and then we got Batgirl right
I
now.
already said I had a Batman costume. You can't take my Batman idea.
You stole it right before I was about to say it, too.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Because I was-
Originality over here, guys.
Because I was going to bring up the
You already said your one funny joke of the day.
Yeah, that was it. Done. Anyway, if you're part of a vigilante group, be careful. If you know of any sort of sexual predators out there, let your authorities know. Tune in to hear more about the Long Island sex scandals. Protect your children and stay safe.